Welcome to the channel and welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with the kind of squad talk and the overhaul news that's been going around over the last 24 hours. So the Muppeteers, on one of his recent videos as well, and I like the Muppeteers. I think he's got credible connections or something within the club as well, had the following to say regarding the kind of team and the squad and on Ruben Amorim's situation as well, saying that Amorim has made it clear he wants to dump an enormous amount of players. Amorim has concern over a number of players' attitude problems and that Amorim has demanded a huge turnover of players this summer. So according to the Muppeteers, Ruben Amorim is not very happy with what he's seen at United. Who can blame him for that as well? Not just with the kind of player quality in the squad, but then also obviously attitude within the team. And he kind of alluded it to in one of his recent press conferences, didn't he? When he was like, look, this team are capable of switching it on and off like a tap. Some of you are mentioning that in the comments as well on previous videos as well, and that he's kind of, suggested to the board that we need a massive, huge turnaround of players in the summer because he's not happy with what he's kind of seeing behind the scenes. And obviously the kind of, the view from Amorim, if you remember when he came in November, one of the things or one of the briefs that was going around at the time is that he was going to be given time to assess the squad and give them an opportunity for the players to kind of prove themselves and so on and so forth. And now obviously he's had that kind of period with them, which is actually one of the positives I think of Amorim coming in when he did, because at least he's been able to look properly at these players and not just in pre-season, not just in training on the pitch, but actually in game situations, but then also in games that don't necessarily that are bigger than others as well. So he's actually had that kind of opportunity to work with them, and obviously he'll know what instructions he's given to the team and to the players and stuff as well. And if ultimately there's players there that are just not capable of following instructions or not capable of performing week in and week out as well, then fair play to Ruben Amorim. He's gone to the kind of directors and the board and said, look, I need a massive number of turnaround of players as well. It's just the only thing I have to kind of say regarding this is we hear this every summer. We hear this every single summer, huge turnover and open heart surgery and all of these things as well. We have to actually see it, because the only way we're going to improve as a team and as a squad is if we actually see this huge turnaround, because there's players that are too comfortable at United that have been here for a lot of years that have effectively outstayed their welcome, and we need to see it. We need to see action. Actions speak louder than words. But that's really interesting from the Muppeteers to say that, look, he's made it clear he wants to dump an enormous amount of players. It's just, will the club back him, and are we able to do that? Because as we know, one of the problems we have at United is the salary we pay some of these players, and that's what kind of keeps them at United, is the wages and obviously we've got some that are injury prone as well that we maybe want to move on, but yeah, that's interesting. At least he's kind of, at least the kind of report is mass overhaul, which I'm excited about in a way, but I need to see it. I need to see the evidence of that, because again, we hear that every summer, big overhaul, massive overhaul and stuff, and it never really materializes. But I do think that he needs to be backed, and we need to kind of show that we are that this sort of season shouldn't be rewarded. There should be consequences for this season for the players, in my opinion. Now, Samuel Luckhurst has also said something similar as well, but saying that Manchester United want up to 4 key signings as part of the overhaul of their squad this summer. United have prioritised sharpening their attack. Also, a new midfielder is among United's priority targets, with Eriksen due to be released and Casemiro's future still uncertain. Now, Samuel Luckhurst is a shit stirrer, but he does have connections at the club, so it's really annoying, one to pay attention to, but you don't really want to pay attention to him because of him being a shit stirrer. Saying 4 key signings. Now, we know striker, number 10, midfield, who's the 4th one, centre-half, goalkeeper. I know we'll have mixed thoughts on that in the kind of comments. I would like it to maybe be a goalkeeper as well, but then with the injuries we've got at the back, there's some injury updates I'm going to run through at the end as well. Is it viable to get a centre-half, or are we cool there? Would it be another midfielder maybe? Give us your kind of thoughts. So we know the 3, midfield, striker, number 10, Do they go for another number 10? Do we go for another midfielder, a centre-back, goalkeeper? Give us your kind of thoughts and preferences on that in the comments below. But again, Samuel, like I said, look, part of a kind of big overhaul of the squad, up to 4 key signings. So key signings, in my opinion, that wording means first team players. I think we need more than that, but Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to be a big enough and a difficult enough summer anyway to get 4 in first team players. But yeah, we'll have to kind of keep an eye on it as well. But again, need to see the kind of proof of what's kind of going on to what's being reported. Now, on the midfield, though, there's been a couple of updates regarding midfielders. So Manchester United are making Adam Wharton a top priority for midfield, but Crystal Palace are preparing to offer him a new deal. Now, that came from Court Offside. Court Offside can be a little bit hit and miss. They've got credible journalists that work for them. They've got some not so credible journalists that work for them. This came from one of their kind of medium journalists, I would say. I do think Adam Wharton is he's been linked with us by other more credible people than before. It's just how much Crystal Palace going to want from him. I think he would be a really good fit at United. I think he's the kind of, the profile of midfielder we would be looking for, because he's very good on the ball, can kind of dictate the tempo of a game, but also his tackling is up there as well. When you look at his data and his stats, very high numbers in terms of tackling and interceptions and stuff. So he is an all-action midfielder that way, but he is also very good at progressing the ball and a good passer as well. And I think those 2 attributes we would kind of need in a midfielder: someone that can pass the ball and dictate the tempo of a game, and actually kind of receive the ball under pressure in midfield, which Wharton can, but can also do the kind of defensive side of things as well and put themselves about. That would be the dream midfielder. Adam Wharton's a very, very good midfielder at doing that as well. It's just, how much is he going to cost? Are we going to have the budget available to do that? I think he's going to be an expensive signing if we go for him, which I don't know if we're going to have the money for, but it's one that we'll kind of keep an eye on. I think he is a player of interest and would be an interesting player to kind of bring in. It's just funding. Funding would be the issue. And then, like it says there, is that agent talk, because Palace are trying to get him under a new contract. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one for you. But give us your thoughts on Adam Wharton in the comments. Be interesting to hear what you think about him as a potential midfielder coming in. Now, another midfielder, though, keeping with midfield, Douglas Luiz is a player that United board likes and they will look to bring him to Old Trafford during the summer. Newcastle and Nottingham are also said to have already taken initial steps, but United is always there and could explore his move. So that came from Tutto Sport, Italian source, a little bit hit and miss. Suggesting that Douglas Luiz is a player that the board really like and that we could look to bring him in the summer as well. Interestingly, we've done a video recently regarding Luiz, and Romano did say that we were looking at him in January as well. I think the report recently was around, some kind of deal with Juventus for Rasmus Højlund, where Juventus buy Højlund and then we buy Luiz, because swap deals don't happen. All the talk about swap deal, they don't happen in football. They don't benefit anyone. They don't help any team with FFP rules, but it's effectively they buy one of our players and we buy one of their players, is how it would kind of work as well. So again, another interesting profile of player, one to keep an eye on. Could be one that, Eriksen replacement maybe wouldn't be the worst idea. Would depend on the price and the budget, and are we going to do some sort of deal with Højlund and Luiz? Who knows? But again, he is a player that keeps kind of popping up in the Italian media, I would say. But I always think that Romano did kind of say in January that we were interested and were considering making an offer for him as well. So he's clearly a player that's been liked by people within the club. Wilcox, Amorim, Vival, these sort of people clearly maybe do have an interest in him. So we'll have to wait and see how that one kind of develops in the summer. But again, I'm sure you will. Give us your shouts in the comments on that one below. Now, let's move on to the attack. That's the priority position. So we know, the forward, the striker, the number 10 position are the priorities. We also already know who our priority signings are, Liam Delap and Matheus Cunha, where there's been updates on both of those that we're going to run through now. So Manchester United are in pole position to sign Liam Delap. The player would be happy to move to United this summer. However, his financial decision could be swayed by whether or not they win the Europa League. Newcastle and Chelsea also want him. So that came from Sky Covey, who is actually a decent source as well. The stories recently have been quite similar around pole position, and front runners have come from, Ben Jacobs, who I think's hit and miss, Graham Bailey, who I think's hit and miss, have come from kind of, okay journalists, I would say. But Sky Cav is actually fairly decent when it comes to this sort of information. So what he had to say in his actual kind of interview on Sky, he said, what we are hearing this afternoon is that Manchester United are in pole position to sign him. One source has gone as far as telling us that he believes that the deal is very close and the player would be happy to move to Manchester United. And then he went on to say, even though Manchester United aren't having a great season, Liam Delap still feels they are a big club. I get the feeling that the player would be up for the move to United, even if they were not to make the Champions League. So Sky Cavi in the actual interview, suggesting that he'd be happy to come even without Champions League, which is interesting because it's the first kind of journalist that said around him, not because the belief has been before about European football or Europa League or Champions League. Maybe it's about wages, What if it's about, waiting to see if we are in the Champions League so they can demand more wages on a contract? And maybe that's what's holding up the Cunha deal as well, because, if our players are getting a 25% pay rise if we do qualify for the Champions League, so new signings would need, maybe they would be able to ask for more money from United. So that's why they're kind of holding up on the deal. So maybe it's not about them necessarily wanting Champions League football, but maybe they're wanting to know what the budget is. So if we offer, I don't know, 100 grand a week for Liam Delap but then we get Champions League, maybe he asks for 120 grand a week, as an example. Maybe it's something to do with that, but who knows? But interesting from Sky Cave saying that, pole position, front runners, similar kind of thing as well. But that's the first kind of one where I've kind of thought, oh, okay, well, that sounds a little bit more encouraging, although some of you might not want Liam Delap, so you might not be happy with that kind of news. But again, keep an eye on it. We need to kind of wait and see. We know it's us and Chelsea that are seen as the going head to head for him as well. But yeah, we'll have to kind of keep an eye on it for you. But give us your thoughts on Liam Delap and that kind of news in the comments below, as I'm sure you will. And then the other player, Matheus Cunha. So Matheus Cunha remains on track to happen after the Europa League final. So that came from the Muppeteers saying that there's still nothing to be concerned about really regarding the deal. And Fabrizio Romano said the same as well, that Man United are in very positive talks with Matheus Cunha. They're discussing the details of the agreement with the player, and then they'll meet Wolves to find a solution for the payment structure of the release clause. So he kind of did an update that wasn't really an update the other day, saying, still in positive talks. There's basically, it looks like this is just going to go through, and it's waiting to the Europa League again. Might be just what I said before, whether if we do qualify for Champions League, maybe he'll ask for more money on his salary, and then we'll be able to get the kind of deal done, hopefully with Wolves. So interesting. So again, we're seeing like what will be kind of interesting for me is if we do get, because if it's always been reported for weeks and months that Delap and Cunha are number one and number two kind of options for those sort of positions. For the striker, it's Liam Delap. For the number 10, it's Matheus Cunha. Right? If United go out and get both their priority signings done before the transfer window open, then I would be pretty impressed with that, because but I can't remember the last time we did that. I can't remember the last time we got our number one targets, because normally we're scraping the barrel going down the list and everyone's ending up with their third, second and fourth choice kind of targets for positions as well. So if United kind of do pull off Liam Delap and Matheus Cunha, who are believed to be their top targets, whether you agree with that or not is irrelevant. That from the people at United are like, these are the two that we want, and they'd go and get both deals done, pretty early in the transfer window. I'd be actually quite impressed with that, because that's something that we've never done before. We always kind of struggle with these sort of kind of signings, and we're always scraping the barrel. We're always like, oh well, we missed out on that one, so let's go for our number second or our third kind of option as well. So that'll be an interesting one to kind of keep an eye on. Right, let's go through some more transfer news. So Manchester United are keeping an eye on Callum Hudson-Odoi's situation at Nottingham Forest. Talks over a new Forest contract are ongoing. His current deal expires next summer. So that came from Sky Sports. Seth, who's actually quite well connected when it came to the Hudson-Odoi move to Forest as well. So that's not so that's one to pay attention to, whether you want to or not. That's entirely up to you. I'm sure you're going to let me know in the comments what you think about potentially United going for Hudson-Odoi. I mean, I think he's a good player. Is he better than what we've got, though, would be the question. I'm not entirely convinced that he would be. Being truthful with you, 34 appearances, 5 goals, 3 assists for Forest this season. Statistically, does not look particularly good at everything. In fact, he's less than average at most of the kind of percentiles on there. He is a good dribbler though, progressive carries, good passer as well. So he does have some kind of, areas where he does kind of excel. And again, Forest play more of a counter-attacking football, so some of these numbers are going to be quite low just because of style of play from managers who has had injury problems in the past, though. 24 years old, is English and homegrown. That's probably about as more positive as I'm going to get regarding it. Like, I don't mind Hudson-Odoi. Like I said, I think he's a good player. Is he a great player, though? And is he one that's going to take the team forward? I highly doubt. I would see him as a rotation option at best, and I would question whether he's actually better than what we've got currently in the team at the moment. Like, is he better than Garnacho? I don't think he is. Definitely not better than Ahmad. Definitely won't be better than Cunha if we buy Cunha in as well. So that would be more of a squad option. At best, I think Hudson-Odoi. So if we do want numbers and we do want reinforcements in the kind of attacking area, and we're going to get Cunha, and then, you know, we want somebody else to kind of play behind him to rotate and that around, then, you know, he would be a decent shout for that. It's just how much of the budget is it going to cost to get him, and what's the kind, and you know, yeah, it's an odd one. That, let me know what you think about it though in the comments, because I'll be really interested to hear what you've got to say regarding Hudson-Odoi. Like I said, I think personally, good player, not great. I can't, like, I don't, it makes no sense to me. It would make no sense going for that sort of player, because does he really improve the team? He might kind of be a bench option, but is that what we really need this summer? If you go back to Samuel Lucas, we said we want 4 key signings. I don't think Hudson-Odoi would be one. And then when I read the report, I was like, that smells a little bit like agent talk to me. Putting it out there to either put the client's name out because he's got a year left on his contract, or to try and get a new deal from Forest. But I will keep an eye on it for you. But give us your shouts on that in the comments below. Now, there's some talk yesterday, if you watched yesterday's video regarding the goalkeeper situation. There's been a couple more updates regarding that position as well. So Simon Stone from the BBC, who's a good source, said that Royal Antwerp, Sané Lemens is a name I hear quite often, so I wouldn't be surprised if United go for him. That he is a name that I've got on my list of, you know, potential kind of options. A player that we've been heavily linked with in the past, seen as a very highly regarded young goalkeeper, valued, I think the reports were before, around £30 million as well. So whether that would be, you know, a bit too expensive for us, or whether we would be able to negotiate that down as well. But it's definitely definitely a player that we've been tracking and linked with and monitored before. And like I said, Simon Stone, very good source actually with United News as well, saying that he wouldn't be surprised if we went for Sané Lemens. But then also we've had AS, who are a good Spanish outlet, saying that Manchester United are among the clubs interested in signing Espanyol keeper Joan Garcia. Arsenal are currently pushing to land his signature. So again, decent source from Spain as well, AS, saying that United are among the teams interested in Joan Garcia, but that Arsenal were pushing to sign him as well. So that could be a little bit of clickbait, putting United's name out there. But again, he is one of the goalkeepers that we have been linked. Not so much recently. I put some of the other keepers ahead of Garcia because we have been linked with him before, but just not too often more recently. So the kind of other targets, I think, have been more heavily kind of linked with us as well. But he is interesting option. I think two decent choices there as well. So yeah, it is they're starting to get a few more rumours about the goalkeeper situation as well, which is interesting. But I'll keep my eye on it for you and bring you any further updates if they come out. But yeah, give us your thoughts on the goalkeeper situation. So let's go on to this couple of exit news. So Bruno Fernandes to Al Hilal is unlikely to happen. That came from Laurie Whitwell. Remember, the reports were that they're giving him like a one final offer. They're giving him a week to respond to that offer as well. But then the reports before were that Amorim doesn't want to sell him. He's happy to stay until at least 2026 as well. And Laurie Whitwell, one of the best journalist for Man United News around, in my opinion, saying it's unlikely to happen as well. But again, we'll need to kind of keep an eye on that, whether if we don't make Champions League, whether that would change Bruno's mind, who knows. But I don't think the club want to sell him. I think it would be down to Bruno if he wants to kind of go, and by all accounts he wants to stay, and Laurie Whitwell was saying it's unlikely to happen as well. So but again, I'll bring you any further developments on that one. And then there was stories regarding Jadon Sancho, again, if you've watched the videos recently, about Chelsea potentially paying the £5 million penalty to send him back to United on loan, but there was interest from Bayern Leverkusen. I think Dortmund have been linked with Sancho as well. According to a what's believed to be a decent kind of Turkish journalist, but I don't know the credibility personally, has suggested that Fenerbahce are making attempts to sign Jadon Sancho for £25 million from Manchester United this summer. Jose Mourinho has approved the signing. So again, more options we get for our players out on loan, and the fringe players or the players that we don't want in the squad, then the better it is. So we can line up deals for Jadon Sancho already if Chelsea then do pay that £5 million penalty and he does end up coming back to United. If we've already got teams interested in him as well, hopefully that just helps us get a deal done quickly, because I cannot be done with the Sancho saga in the summer. But give us your opinions on that below. Now let's quickly go through the injury updates. So De Ligt and Yoro are not in training with the Manchester United squad. So De Ligt and Yoro not training with the first team squad as well. Apparently Yoro was seen going to the gym and stuff. So I would imagine maybe both not available for the Chelsea game, but hopefully maybe on the road to recovery for the final as well, because that'll be a massive blow to miss both De Ligt and Lenny Yoro for the final. Now, Joshua Zirkzee is doing light intensity training on grass. A return before the end of the season is deemed unlikely, but he is working super hard to make the Europa League final. The plan for the Dutchman was to return for pre-season. So Sully Talks suggesting that Joshua Zirkzee is doing, light training already. He did say himself, though, in a live stream with Alphonso Davies, that I'm trying to be back for the final. We'll see what's possible, but it's going to be difficult. So there are some rumorings that maybe Joshua Zirkzee is trying to get himself fit for, or get himself back available for the final. It would clearly be off the bench though as well, because he's been out for a number of weeks now as well, and if he's not quite 100%, then they're not going to risk him as well. But yeah, more bodies we can get available for that game, even if it is 5 minutes off the bench if we needed a goal. Then yeah, fair play. All right to Joshua Zirkzee for at least trying to making the attempt. Whether it's possible or not, obviously depends on him. But yeah, that's interesting. And Diego Dalot has just completed an individual training session at Carrington as he continues to push to be involved for the Europa League final. So again, potentially Diego Dalot could be on his way back as well. Again, we'll need to wait and see. We'll need to wait for Amin's press conference, so I'm sure we'll give us an update on the injury news and stuff as well. But potentially players trying to get back in time for the final as well. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.